navigating the entrepreneurial landscape for female professionals. And I know I came in a lot of kind of live because I'm really excited. I'm like, rise of the entrepreneur. I'm just really excited about this topic, the whole theme for this summit. And the reason is because there are so many opportunities right now for the professional to really monetize their knowledge and their skill set and create a really great lifestyle for themselves of freedom and independence. And you're just seeing a lot of people taking advantage of the opportunity. And so I wanted to bring forward kind of a new idea, a new group of women who are doing this for themselves and creating a whole career in it. And so the young lady that I have joining us next is Tamira Hamilton. And I want you to know, and I go back and forth, Tamira. Sometimes I call you Tamira, sometimes I call you Tamira. Just hang
It's
out with
Tamira.
me. Okay.
Mhm.
I might say Tamira in a minute.
I
You
know.
think I didn't know her, right? Because I actually do. She is not a stranger to this platform. We've been doing summits now for about 4 years, twice a year. And she's one of my favorites that I bring back often because she has a lot of the knowledge and experience that you're seeking. And she's a living, breathing example um, of the opportunity, but also demonstrating exactly what to do in the online space when it comes to creating connection, creating engagement. And if you follow her, you'll know what I mean. You'll know what I mean because you'll see her doing what she's about to teach over and over and over again. Okay, so of course I asked her to come back. I'm like, you know what, Tamir, you're a favorite, so come back. Not just a favorite of mine, but also of our audience that listens to you. So I want you to know that her background, she may not talk about it much today, I don't know, but her background is really as a seasoned sales and marketing professional. She comes from the corporate world and she's had literally 3 decades of working with Fortune 100 companies. And she really is a driving force behind the revolutionary Pin Profits Mastery Program. She is I would say, just an industry expert on the Pinterest platform. She has an educational background that has a bachelor's, a master's in marketing and finance. We had her come back one time to talk about really the business sense in the data and the numbers when it comes to marketing. So she's that gal because she's a marketing strategist and she's nothing short of remarkable. So here we are. She started going through a transformational journey in the early, well, mid 2013. She's got 2 young girls. She is an entrepreneur, as you know, and she has a very influential online presence. So I want you all to just listen up to what she has to talk about today to you. It's around storytelling, okay? Storytelling your dream. And she's actually titling this The Ultimate Guide to the Rise Technique for Impactful Connection That Wildly Converts. So I'm really interested in hearing what this Rise technique is. So we get to hear about that today. But welcome to Mir, and thank you again for agreeing to come onto our online stage in this way.
And thank you for having me. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here with you. I definitely, see you as a sister. And, there are people when they ask, the answer is always yes. I will figure it out and I will make it happen. And you are one of those people.
I love that. Thank you. Love that, love, love.
You're
And you know,
welcome.
it's funny, guys. Let me tell you what you get to do when you're in like online space. Like you connect with people because you're doing similar things. You have similar spirits, so you just connect. And then you've like never like she and I have never met in person, which is insane. We were just talking about that before we hit the record button that we haven't done that, but we've got to do that soon. But what I love about what we do is that you really can create real meaningful connections, right? And it's fine, right? Online, it's like totally fine. So yeah, talk to us. Talk to us. I mean, you can give us a little background because I'm sure we've got some people who've not heard. I want you specifically, as you tell your background and your story, this is called Rise of the Entrepreneur. And we're really speaking to that professional female individual who may still be at home, excuse me, may still be in her job working, and she just can't see how that leap is possible for her, but she's got the dream to be able to make the leap. And we're also speaking to the woman who has made the leap. She's out there doing her thing, but she might be missing a few things that are allowing her to connect and make the revenue that she wants to make. So she's on the struggle bus a bit. And she's wondering, like, how long am I going to be able to sustain myself going this direction? I really want to skyrocket in business so I can live my dream. So I want you to just know that those are the two people that are in our audience, and you are that woman, and you've been there, and you're doing been there, done that kind of thing. So tell us your background and tell us about your experience about how you made the leap
I
to.
I definitely am that woman. Like when I listened to you just now, I'm sitting here and reflecting. And I definitely was in corporate, single mom. My daughters are now 32 and soon to be 27. My grandson just turned 10, and little Callie will be 4 next month, my granddaughter. So I remember those days. And it's definitely a part of my story that I tell and how I connect with people and grow my audience because I'm very passionate about helping women who are today where I was 10 or 15 years ago, where I was constantly going around and around on that hamster wheel, chasing that carrot that kept being moved. And every time I like grabbed a hold of it and broke off a piece of it and made crumbs everywhere, they would just put a new carrot in place and just dangle it higher and further away. And I knew there had to be a better way. But as a single mom, how am I going to take care of my kids? How am I going to do this? Their higher existence rests on my shoulder, right? So how do I break free? And working and living in Milwaukee at the time and what I do in marketing back then, it was very difficult to find. Like when I graduated, even though I'd interned at a company that makes consumer goods that you probably have in your home and interned there for 4 years while I was getting my undergraduate degree, they still wanted me to have my MBA to hire me in marketing. So finding a true marketing job right out of undergrad was very difficult. I literally had to work marketing adjacent and in sales for a good chunk of my earlier years in my career. And so I've been that woman. And that's why when I heard what you were doing, I had to be a part of this. And one of the things I want to make sure that we clear up front and out of the way, and like Sherelle said, if you follow me, which I really would welcome you to do, you will find I am very consistent. The things I say now, I have been saying since 2014 and 2015 and 2013. And I'm not only very consistent, I do update it. I stay timely, I stay relevant, but the message and the mission still remains the same to connect to the hearts of the woman who is where I was coming home from work, so exhausted. We wore apparel to work. I would fall asleep on the couch in my apparel because I would be so exhausted, not physically, mentally, emotionally present with my children as much as I could have and should have been. And we're still healing that to this day. And so my goal is that no woman ever has to make the decision that I made when I got promoted to vice president and I had to go to training in Chicago and catch the train. And one of the things I always gave my children and prided myself on giving them was that first week of school, being off of work and giving them the stay-at-home mom experience where I drive them to school, pick them up from school, make their lunches when they're in kindergarten and first grade, following the bus to school for a week to make sure they got there so that they got that and they had those memories. And this one year, I had to choose between doing that for my daughter, who was in third or fourth grade at the time, and dropping her off on the corner to wait for the bus from the high school to the K-8 school and getting on the train to Chicago. And I swear she's been mad at me for over 20 years for
Oh, wow.
that. Yeah, like we finally are making some traction there, but
Yeah.
no woman should have to feel like she has to choose between her career and her children. And one of the things my daughter and I still work on to this day is who was going to financially take care of you? It wasn't that I chose my job over you, but at the end of the day, the bills had to be paid. At the end of the day, would you rather me be able to take you to basketball practice and we not have a car, we not have a home, or what? So no mom, no woman should have to make that choice. And I also understand we live in a time where more women are choosing not to be moms and not to be wives. And this is still for you. This is still for you to be able to choose yourself, your well-being, your mental health over a company, a bad boss. And not all bosses are bad and not all companies are bad, but you still choose you first. Because I can tell you, if you die today, they're going to have your job posted in the next few days, send flowers, and they're going to keep it moving, right? So I love being here, and I want you to hear the stories. I've already told you several stories in just this intro, right? And you just want to become fluid with that. And that's what the RISE technique that we're going to go through is all about. And the other thing I want to say before we get started is a victim story is not required. I heard one of my mentors say that, and that's how she became my mentor. I heard her say that. Right. One of the things we're going to talk about today is you not only do, like Brene Brown says, you tell your story with those who've earned the right to hear your story, but you tell your story from a healed perspective, or one where you're healing. You don't tell it where the wound is still open and you're crying. There was a time when I talked about my corporate experience, I would have been very angry and still unhealed. And so now I'm able to talk about it from a more healed perspective, and I willingly share it. But a victim story is not required. And we're going to go through and talk about some of the ramifications of people creating false victim stories. And I don't want you to do that. So
That's interesting.
yeah.
Well, let's dive into that, creating false victim stories, because there's a thought that you have to have experienced something painful in order to make an impact.
Mhm.
That what the thought
And
is.
in certain industries and spaces, when you see the people on stage, when you hear them tell their story, their meteoric rise and the way they started the company, and I know you've heard these, Sherelle. Everybody started sleeping out on their on their mama's couch or a friend's couch, or they were homeless, and not all of those stories are true.
Right.
I know of a person who made that story up, and I know why they made that story up. You probably don't know them, Sherelle, but I know for a fact that this person made that story up about sleeping on their mama's couch. And I'm not going to
Wow.
say how I know, but I know that it was not a true story. Okay. There's a celebrity right now. I'm going to do my best to not name them because cease and desist letters are going out. There is a celebrity right now on TikTok who is getting flamed for making up their story about where they're from. And I can't give too many details because it'll give it away, making up details about where they're from. And even if these details are true, they're so far from it now that it's just unrelatable. And people, there's a lot more details that I'm just going to skip over.
Yeah, I'm
Because, like I
like,
said, I
who's she
don't want
talking
to
about?
miss
Who's she
this
talking about?
letter. I'll tell you after we stop recording. But they are getting flamed on TikTok. And it's not about the story. It's not about the celebrity. It's about, I need you to understand that in today's world, people see through that. They see clear through it and they're not here for it. They want your authenticity. So if where you were and where you came from 30 years ago is more relevant, that's fine. But what's your story today? What challenges, what's your story today that you can tell that is going to make your audience connect with you? A good example of that is Oprah, and she talks about her menopause story and her menopause journey, right? She's not still talking about what happened to her when she was a very little girl, right? We all know that story, but she's not still talking about that. She has grown and healed from that. And there's something new that she has to share with us. You were going to say something, Sherelle.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think, I've had a few recent conversations with clients who feel, and they're just starting in business, identifying what about them stands out and valuing the knowledge and expertise that they have to offer. However, it's difficult for them to find a story because they feel that, I guess is what you're saying, that they don't have a victim story, or they don't feel like they've gone through anything, or they just haven't done the work to identify what about them makes them great. Can you talk to that person.
Yes. And what you just said is really what it boils down to. It boils down to, and this is my problem with victim stories, especially contrived ones, is it says that my journey, my struggle, quote unquote, my perceived struggle makes me more worthy of the stage, makes me more worthy of success than the next person. And that's really, really boils down to is your measure, your perception of your worth. And I'm here to tell you you're worthy just because you are, right? I don't know who you believe in, but the person, the entity that woke me up this morning woke me up with a purpose, if only to be able to make sure that I made it to this recording, right? And give you the message that's inside of me to give you. So your worthiness has nothing to do with a struggle story. If you didn't struggle, that's fine. But what inspired you? What keeps you going? What lights your fire? And more importantly, what's your vision? Where are you going? Why are you going there? Those are the things you really want to tap into and share. Because if you are struggling with the fact that you don't have a struggle story, number one, be transparent and say that. I
Mhm.
know everyone has a struggle story and I don't. And I'm either apologetic or unapologetic about it. But here's what I can tell you. Here's where I'm going and here's why, right? You heard some of that when I talked about, I don't want to see other moms go through what I went through, right? While there was a little bit of struggle there, it was much more about the vision and where are you going? Because vision equates to transformation.
Mm-hmm. So talk to us about okay, wait. Let me go back.
Okay.
Would you say vision equates to transformation?
Transformation. Hmm.
Absolutely. And yeah, so there's a lot in what you just said there because people are fueled by your vision. So if you are able to communicate it, people will rally behind your excitement and your purpose, where you're going, as opposed to, you know, you not being able to paint a picture at all. So it's all about painting a picture and getting excited about the picture that you're painting and a journey that you're sharing with
Yeah.
others for them to go on.
It's very forward looking, right? And people tend to do what with people who have vision and are quote unquote visionaries? They tend to follow them.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to buy into them. They tend to invest in them versus the person who is firmly rooted in where they were and what happened to them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if you do have that struggle story, it's important to not just you're going to tell that story over and over again, but you're not just going to talk about the struggle. You're going to talk about the overcoming. You're going to talk about the tools. You're going to talk about the transformation with it so that you're also still selling the vision because that is what people want to connect to. And I've been known to say people will admire you for your strength, but they will connect with you through your weakness. That weakness does not have to be I was homeless and sleeping on my mama's couch story. That weakness could be, man, I can be laser focused, but if those grandbabies come in, I am 100% present with them and I forget about everything else, right? So my perceived weakness is they just melt me. I'm all about them, but it makes people connect with me because they either have children or nieces or grandchildren.
Mm-hmm. So tell us about this with the rise technique that you want us to master.
First of all, I knew that this was the rise of the entrepreneur, but it didn't click to me that it was the rise technique and the rise of the
Oh,
entrepreneur. So
yes, yes, yes.
that's just merely coincidental. So the rise technique is an acronym to help you tell your story, right? So R is going to be reflect. And when you reflect, you're going to have a strong hook. And that hook might be, I remember the time when, or a year ago, I started dot, 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 and here's where I am now, right? I can remember the time when I had to leave my daughter standing on one of the scariest intersections in the city to rush and catch the train to Chicago so that I can make more money to take care of her and provide her with a better experience, right? And then, that strong hook and that reflect. Now, the reflecting doesn't always have to, again, be a rear view look. It can be introspective. It can really be your inside dialogue and your thoughts, right? It could be about something that is happening right now and your thoughts on it. So reflections isn't always a rear facing view. Okay. So that's the first thing you're going to do is you're going to open with a really strong hook, and you're going to really, I like the word reflect because it's really about pulling your audience into you and making them become a part of the story. I like to tell stories in a way that my language, especially, I like to write. So I will write a post and then later turn it into a video script. So everything with me starts with a written post. And the way I write that post is what I call, what industry people call a greased chute. So it's really designed to just keep you reading from top to bottom. And so I'm going to start with that really strong hook and that reflection to really draw you in and literally make you hang on to my every word. There are people who read my posts and they'll be like, it has a cadence to it. It has a rhythm, almost like they're dancing to it when they read it. And so that's why that hook and reflect is really important to pull them in. And so you want to bring them into an exact time, an exact moment. So you can use things like talking about the sights and sounds that were happening in this moment that you are either reflecting on or that you are dreaming of. Okay. And then from there, you're going to inspire. And that's where you're going to talk about where you were. This is the before, right? And you're going to say it in such a way that people are going to connect with it. And this is where details are important, right? You feel inspired to keep listening when I say my daughter was left standing and waiting on the bus. Now, she was safe. Just put that out there, standing on a little bit of a sketchy corner because of where the school was located, right? So there's that, right? And so you inspire your audience to keep listening and become invested in the story. And you're going to share exactly where you were, what you were thinking of, what was going on, and it's let the audience know that they're going somewhere. You're going to share 80%. So there's a TikTok that I had that went viral. And you see me keep wiping. I didn't even bother with makeup because I'm 50. So I tend to sweat. I tend to get hot. I tend to, you know. And so I shared the story of some things from my medical history and how I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And I only told like 80% of the details. And partly because I was running out of room on the screen. And in doing so, that created curiosity. And so the other 20 to 10%, people started asking in the comments. And that's what you want, right? So you don't want to share all of the details. You want to share just enough to really make it engaging for them to start having conversation with you because they already are beginning to feel this strong emotional pull and, you know, feeling almost the need to even take action. And that's what the E is empower. So we've got reflect, inspire, share, and empower, right? So you're going to end on something that's going to be very empowering and uplifting and possibly a call to action. I'm a big fan of a call to action. And as you get skilled in telling your story, sometimes you don't have to do the call to action. They're going to feel compelled and they're going to take action, even if that action is asking you a question, because that's really what we want. We want dialogue. We want to start having the conversation and then be able to decide where people are and move them through the buyer's journey. So that is the RISE technique. And when you put it all together and you can put it into something like a Chat GPT or a Claude, and it can help you come up with your 3-second commercial, which is your variation of a story that you're going to tell over and over and over again in your
What do you mean
posts.
by that? When you say put it in the Chat GPT, put what in the Chat GPT?
You can say, I'm using this RISE framework and from the checklist that I'm giving away, and you can copy and paste that into Chat GPT and say, what information do you need from me to turn this into a 3-second commercial using this framework?
Okay.
You don't have to do that. I just know a lot of people are doing it or would
Yeah.
want to do it to make it easy. And it's going to help you come up with this 3-second commercial, 30-second commercial. We've in corporate, it was always, oh, my name is Tamira and I'm here to help you lower your mortgage rate, blah, blah, blah. You still have your 30-second commercial in what you do on social media. And that's letting people know who you are so that they can connect with you. By the way, everybody talks about entertaining and educating, even me, for a social media marketing framework, right?
Mhm.
Well, everybody's a little burnt out with how to 7 steps to this, 8 steps to that. Everybody's a little tired and just overwhelmed with that. Fatigued, right? Is the word I'm looking for. But storytelling is a way that is very engaging. When you look at the way we've been educated, entertained in this country, storytelling, literally how we learned to read was they gave us characters. Nan and Ted, I remember from A Pocket Full of Sunshine, the book, and they told us little short stories about them. And that's how we learned to read. We learned through storytelling. Before a lot of people could even read and write, there was storytelling. I saw a video on TikTok, of course, about a family that sang this song over and over for generations, and come to find out one of the members was in Africa and heard the song. So they were able to connect their roots to Africa through this song that had been sang for generations over and over and over again. Many of the
So you-
songs some of
so
us
you're
sing in
saying this
church.
particular song was custom to this particular family and they were singing it and it connected with someone else who also was familiar with this customized song? Oh,
Yep.
they're like, oh my God,
Yeah.
we're good. That's
To
that's
the exact tribe.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a calling, a call for your
Hmm.
people.
Yep.
It's fun.
Yeah. I'll
Hmm.
see if I can find the video and send it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd
So
like to see
it's
that.
storytelling.
That's
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, and so
Mhm.
so when would a person use storytelling? We know in our post, but are you suggesting in everything that we do? Like,
Well, I don't think you can do it in everything that you do, but I think when you are starting out to get people's attention and to stand out, you want to tell your story, right? And you want to tell it repeatedly. You want to be able to tell it in your sleep. You want to be able to, if you're asleep and somebody taps you on the shoulder, you wake up and you can quickly and succinctly tell your story of who you are, who you help, and how you transform their lives, right? And in the
yeah.
beginning, it may be, this is how I came across this product, or this is how I came across this business idea, and why, and because this is how it helped me, right? There's this saying of solve your own problems and then sell the solution. Right. And that's all this, you're going to tell the story of how you solved your own problem and sell the solution. So it's very important in that earlier phase of the buyer's journey where you're building that awareness and people are really getting to know you and get in your funnel and then matriculate, because you literally can create raving fans who will
How do you
who
know
will
that your
fight for you.
storytelling is actually working?
Because people are engaging with you, they're showing up in your inbox, they're in comments, and they're asking for questions, they're asking for help, they're joining your email list, they're even beginning to buy from you, they're sharing with other people, they're tagging others. That's how you know that it's working.
Yeah, yeah. I'm a big storyteller. I
Hmm.
tell a lot of stories, and it's. I think once you start doing it, it becomes second nature. It's really just it's sharing. Use
Yeah.
the S. It's just sharing. You're just letting people
Yeah.
know what's going on.
And for
Um,
me, I've always
and
been big on analogies, right? This isn't a
Mhm.
religious statement, but like Jesus in the parables, like storytelling, a, people are going to remember something from a story, which is why they use it in education a lot. They're going to remember a story a lot better than facts. So telling
Yeah,
stories is just very impactful and effective.
Yeah. So what you're talking about is a form of attraction marketing,
Hmm.
getting people to s- help. It helps you become visible and it helps you connect with your ideal customer, with your ideal client.
Exactly. And it goes a little into, so instead of saying 12 to, 5 tips, 4 tips to tell better stories, it can be, I've told 1,000 stories over the course of 5 years, and here are 4 things that I've learned every story must have, right? You hear the difference? People are going to be more drawn to that title than 4 tips to telling great stories, because
Yeah.
everybody's talking about that.
Yeah.
And, often we want to hide. We don't want to be a part of the story. And we're an integral part of the story by way of our reflections and our thoughts, our experiences, our views. And that's what people really want to know and almost even demand by the time you get to Gen Z and Alpha. They expect this because they are not moved by traditional advertising at all. The clients I work with that have the biggest challenges, it's not all that they're boomers, but it's those boomers who only know how to boomer. They don't know how to adjust and adapt to this change where everything in marketing is focused on Gen Z now, where it was millennials 10 years ago.
Yeah, and there's so much because you're going through a transformation, ladies, as you're listening, you're making the decision on whether leaping into entrepreneurship is the right next move for you, and or you're leaping now in entrepreneurship, trying to figure out how to navigate. You're actually creating the transformation as you're going through this process because every time you have an experience and you make a decision as a result of that experience, actually I have that flipped. Every time you make a decision, you create an experience for yourself. And when you create an experience for yourself, you're creating evidence that you've done something. You have some outcome. And it's in that outcome a transformation occurred. So you can actually share what you're doing and why you're doing it and why impacting others and the way that you're doing it is important. So that right there,
Mhm.
even if you just took that piece, you can create so much content and conversation and connection and relatability just because of where you are right now.
And the people who are winning, that's exactly how they're doing it. That's exactly
Mhm.
it. And Gary V has been Gary Vaynerchuk, if you're not
Mhm.
familiar with him, he owns a media company, and he dreams of. I know his story. He dreams of owning the New York Jets one day, right? He started out with Wine Library and selling wine on YouTube for his family's liquor store, right? And he's an immigrant of Serbian descent. I know his story because he's told it over and over again. But one of the things he has been harping on for the last 5 years at least is documenting your journey, documenting
Important.
your journey, right? And he says something that really sticks with me, because my legacy is living. I have 2 grandchildren, and one of the things they love to do is go through my phone and watch videos of them because I have videos all the way they've watched. I didn't get to be there when Callie was born because of COVID, but with Tristan, I was in the room and I have video of him being born on my phone. So they love to go back and review our memories together with me on my phone. They're going to have that if and when something happens to me. This is the first generations to have that, right? Like I'm on ancestry.com late at night trying to find more of my family roots where they will have everything
That's a
on
different
video.
perspective.
Yes, they can go back
Now
and they
you're
can
thinking
hear my
about,
voice.
yeah.
Hmm.
Because if for anything else, it's legacy. Well, it's two things. I mean, history is
Hmm.
made through documentation. So,
Hmm.
and women's history is not told, right? You hear men's history, like the wars and everything, but you hear
Hmm.
that. That's because a male documented some of these occurrences. But there are so many events that have occurred since the beginning of time, which which are, women just didn't document. They weren't allowed to if you go back
Right.
centuries, right? So, I mean, just
And
that.
history is always told by the victor,
Yes.
especially when it comes to war. History is always told by the victor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so you have an opportunity to not just document for the not just for business, but also in legacy
Hmm.
as a female, just in legacy. So I really never thought about that, all of the documentation that's in the phone and
Yeah.
the kids seeing that and having that.
Hmm.
That's so you have a framework. Do you have a framework to share with everyone that they can have access to help them in their storytelling?
Yes, it is the conversion catalyst checklist
Okay.
that
All right.
we're giving away free, and it walks through 10 steps, including the RISE technique to telling stories that convert. Because you don't want to just tell stories that convert. It's like everybody gets stuck in the inbox, in building rapport, and they're building rapport and building
Just
rapport and
make these
building
friends.
rapport. Right.
Like convert them. Gotta make some money.
Exactly. And I'm guilty. I've been there, done that, where you're just like having a conversation, you're just talking, and it's like, okay,
Yeah.
but
Let's move on to business.
exactly, exactly.
That's awesome. So we're going to give you access to that, you all. There's going to be a link or a button down below for you to grab, and it's going to provide you with that catalyst checklist to get you going and on your way. And I'm pretty certain that if you grab it, it'll also give you direct access to Tamira, because if you need help navigating or completing the checklist, or once you have the checklist done and you're like, okay, Tamira, now what? Like, what's next?
Right.
I want you to reach out to her. Okay. Reach out to her, let her know that you completed the checklist. Ask her, okay, now what? And she will walk you
Mhm.
through the next steps. Okay. We'll also provide all of her social media links. I'm very serious. Follow her on social media and watch how she storytells. She talks in a very global sense, but it lets you, it not but, and it lets you know who she is, because she's connecting to her people. And I think that's so important too. People are afraid to talk about who they really are. But what gets to happen is you're segmenting and you're learning who are the people that want to know her. And I'm one of those people. I'm attracted to you because I can understand all of those different pieces that she shares. And it's great. It's
And it's
great. So go check
mutual.
her out. Seriously, go check her out on social. Have some fun, because she likes to have fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My rule is, if it isn't fun, why are you doing it?
Yeah,
Right? If it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
giving
She
you
likes to have
joy,
fun.
ease, and
Great.
flow, why are you doing it? You can stay in corporate America if you want to have fun and laugh at yourself. Because I even had to learn that lesson in corporate America, to take life seriously, not Tamira.
That's fun. Yeah, I was listening. I'm like waiting for that one to land. Yeah, take life seriously, but not yourself. Mm.
Mhm.
All right,
Yeah.
friends. So onward and upward, rise of the entrepreneur. I'll see you on the socials. Thanks for hanging out with us today.